Esiet sveicināti.
Welcome, the audience here in presence and also those who watch us online. Today we are in the discussion, the last social safety net, who falls into it and how does it work. We are going to be here live until approximately 4 p.m. You will be able to ask questions here in the audience in presence and also online. I am going to be the moderator of the discussion today, and I will try to provoke and also poke somehow, and maybe if that's going to be a too heated debate, then I will try to also extinguish a fire, so to say, a little bit. But I think that this is the topic and this is the discussion necessary to ask all the questions that people are interested in and also to assess what's been done in the process already. So I will give the floor first, and I must also say that I need to apologize that Minister is currently not here because it is the budget approval time, and the calendar of a minister or the agenda is not the same as any other agenda, and ours including. That is why there's unexpected meeting, and as we know, budget is very important. Nevertheless, we have the first address, that is the speech Parliamentary Secretary Krists Bergants-Berdis of the Ministry of Welfare. Yes, hello, indeed. The calendar of the minister is also my calendar now. Hello, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, so minimum income reform was introduced in 2023, and that is an achievement indeed, because prior to the reform, many such types of income were reviewed very rarely. They did not have a link to socio-economic indicators, and their amounts were little. And minimum income increases every year. It is related also to overall income of all the people, and then increase also the income of poor people. A significant step has been taken in the development of social policy in Latvia to ensure fair, socially responsible and socio-economically justified material support for the poorest residents of the country. And one of the last safety nets, social safety nets, is social assistance provided by municipalities. Why is it called last net? Because the support is provided when a person has fallen through all other social safety nets. Social assistance is received by residents who have no income or they have very low income. Perceptions in society about these people are very different, mostly negative and prejudiced. And often these people themselves are blamed for the existing poverty situation. However, poverty is never an end in itself or a deliberate action to end up in this situation. And poverty is the result of various circumstances and the consequences of various systematic shortcomings. The issue of poverty has been on the Latvian political agenda for several years, and the European Union has also been committed to prepare the first European anti-poverty strategy. This means that the issue will remain relevant also in the future and also in the EU. That is why today we have gathered you for this conversation, so that we can together assess the benefits of the minimum income reform, discuss the prevailing opinions in society about recipients of social assistance, and come to conclusions about the steps necessary to reduce poverty in Latvia. We are aware that there is still much to be done to improve the well-being of our citizens, to make our society more inclusive and materially secure. Thank you, and I wish you fruitful discussions. Thank you. And today, now with a little bit of introduction, with the presentation on the topic for us to understand what are the things we will see more or we would like to discuss more in the panel, that is Deputy State Secretary of the Ministry of Welfare, Elina Celmiņa. Hello. So I would like to ask Ivars, first of all, are you going to say something after that about filling in the survey? Maybe those who have not managed, that should be done before I start speaking. Yes, the survey. And also our dear audience online, we thought about showing it after the panel discussion. Well, but we decided not to show it because actually the survey was boring. Surprisingly boring. The answers were rather competent, all of them, and obviously the audience is aware of these topics, and at the very end we can also assess it. But it's a good reminder. But now then I will not intrude in the agenda, so to say. I will not Yes, that's fine. So, anyways, a couple of words about this last social safety net. I will just highlight several points about the last safety net and the last level. In total, the minimum income reform needed at least 10 years prior to us introducing it, and it came along with so many discussions and conversations, and it does not touch upon only assistance or support, but there are various other benefits involved. These are seniors, people with disabilities, but not only, also other target groups also. And on this part of the municipality, it touches upon guaranteed minimum income benefit and housing benefit, and also orphans. And this is all the big scope of this minimum income reform. Already the aim was highlighted in the speech of Parliamentary Secretary, but we needed also economically justified indicator to which to tie the thresholds for providing to the people income when they have not been able or are not able to obtain any other income. That is why tying all the benefits, we shouldn't tie all the benefits to this GMI, but to ensure also for employed people and what is necessary for their basic needs, they should be linked with the income benefit threshold. We see already in 3 years now that it has had positive impact. That is what we anticipated, and that was the forecast before that, and the results. I would like to stress that we have improved the material for the situation of loss of income, and it shows that even it is clear that so if people have the money, it's not necessarily cash, but it means that the money they have, the funds they have, it can ensure more of and ensure their necessities. And what do we call the people who are deprived materially? That is, if they can't cover 13 of the 16 criteria. That is, for example, if there's something urgent they can't cover, for example, something breaks down and they cannot afford to buy it or replace it, or maybe spend some vacation, some holidays outside of home. And so there are several criteria, or eat a couple of times a week fish or meat. So 13 criteria. They are throughout Europe the same. And then there are also deep material deprivation. That is somewhat more. There are 5 indicators they encounter, and the others 3 or 4 that they cannot ensure for themselves.
But the good thing is that in Latvia, the situation is that we are on the 15th place in Europe. We are usually somewhere at the end, but now with this, we are in quite a good position. We can be proud that those people who have some material income, they can be able to ascertain some income to cover their needs better than like a few years ago. But those who have a lower income, their income has lowered, or the past few years. The trend is such. The rest of the society will get an increase in income, and we really need to support those of the lower income to support so that there isn't this huge differentiation between these groups. But today's discussion is about social benefits. We called it the last safety net. Why did we call it the last one? We tried to search for maybe better terms, but we really tried and we found that in English it's called the last net. And that's true because why is the last one? Because usually people try to get by themselves. They can get some benefits because they are non-working, or some other benefits. They have relatives, people with disabilities have their benefits. But there are some situations when all of these benefits that are connected to social welfare are not applicable, or the term has ended, the person has not returned in the workforce, or they are unable to, or there are some debts in the household, or maybe there are a lot of dependents in the family, many children, and there's a loss of work or other issues. So then this benefit is the source to give support to these people if they cannot cover their everyday needs. And I want to stress that these are the people who get this benefit. So usually more than 10,000 people get different benefits, and if we talk about unique people, there are 23,000. It means that those are not people who always get it like year after year. It's of usually short duration. It's approximately 1% of the whole population of Latvia. Sometimes we think, oh, it's usually a myth that maybe you saw on the poll when you were sent it, that, and I heard that based on the poll results, people understand this, that it's just a small percentage of the society who get this benefit. And we need to continue talking about this because this social economic dimension that we have added these thresholds to, not to disturb the whole environment where this minimal income threshold exists, is there, and people go to it to get the support, and it works. It works well. People appreciate it. Another thing that they appreciate is a housing benefit. And since we have made changes in 2021, all the criteria are the same formula. There are some things that each municipality can change or adjust. It's based on different positions, but the formula is the same. The access is the same. The regulations are the same, and it seems that it has already been standardized, and the housing benefit is not connected to a special status as an JMI recipient. The person can have minimal, very small income, but large housing costs, and he will then get this housing benefit. If there is this large difference between the income and the housing cost, we see that there are these waves when the benefit goes up, the number of recipients go up during winter months to cover the heating, but then it goes down again. We saw that there was an energy crisis at the beginning there. You see the green wave, but then the situation got stabilized and the next wave was lower. For some people, the winter time, is a difficult moment each year, and there are people who need the support. Everyone gets benefit of a different rate. It depends on the difference that they cannot cover themselves. There could be maybe a few, like 10 or 20 euros, but there could be hundreds of euros as well. So let's be clear. There are people who get these hundreds of euros benefits, but not all of them. And then there's the blue line that is quite stable throughout the years since 2023. And we see that there are a kind of stable amount of people there. And we see how these benefit recipients are according to their status, and we see that the GMI threshold is 166 euros, and for the second person is 116 euros. Yes, so I just wanted to be clear. That's why I said those numbers. So there are a percentage of people who are non-working, then like 43% are non-working, then 27% are children, and then adults with a disability is also 6%. So why are they all included? Why the children or people with disabilities are included? It's because they are in a household whose total income is such that they need an additional benefit if the head of the household are not over the GMI threshold, and that is why those people, even the children and people with disabilities, then are under this GMI benefit recipient list. That is why we see this division. But the housing benefit recipient, which is that on the right, the largest portion of recipients is people in a pensioning age, so pensioners over 65, but those who need this housing benefit to cover their costs. And then the next is children and adults with disabilities. There are approximately 70% each. So we see the numbers. The number of people have risen. Those who receive this housing benefit, now it's 67,000. It is higher than last year's, but it's not very significant. So I told about the GMI threshold. It's 115, and I hope that every listener, everyone knows, but those maybe who are not here but are online, these thresholds change on the 1st of January. The only difference is that if like some people say, oh, but if the median of the household changes, then what happens then? No, we change according to the time where the household is, and we see that there are households who need these different benefits, who need different benefits of housing and GMI and etc. For example, there are three situations. First is two parents plus two children. This family would get 514 euros of GMI. Then the family benefit is 100 euros. The housing benefit would be then 200 euros, let's imagine, and then the whole benefit coverage would be 814 euros per month. So I imagine that maybe this family also receives some other food benefits or others. So let's see the other two on the right scenarios and the amount that they would get in benefits. The second is one person, an adult, non-working, GMI 166, housing benefit 150. Maybe there are others who are not analyzed in this scenario, but there are others who are targeted towards a specific goal, and we really do not evaluate them to whether to see if they need the benefit. For example, there are people with disabilities who get a special care benefit, but we don't calculate that to ensure whether they need this GMI or other benefit. Then the third scenario is one parent with 3 children. We see that in that case we would also cover the housing benefit, and we take care that it's just below 1,000 euros, and they would definitely need to receive benefit of other support, of course. But it's not that all of these benefits are covered by municipalities. At the beginning, you saw a slide about who is on the side of which benefits are on the side of the state and which are on the ministries. So we see here that those in the orange are financed by the municipality, and the green are financed by the state. As I said, on the 1st of January, the thresholds change and we adjust accordingly. The minimum income level also changes. It also affects the median threshold calculation. And then, of course, we always calculate all the whole situation, whether they are orphans, what kind of status the family has, etc. Then it was quite difficult to get this financing for GMI, and I want to stress to representatives of municipalities that this trend will continue. We support this path, and we know that each year the calculations will be larger because we want to cover more and more, and we need to raise these benefits. They should continue to rise year by year. That's why each municipality should take account that this will need to be calculated in their budget, in the budget of each municipality. So that would be all from me. I am waiting for the next discussion to follow. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elena Zelmania, and I now invite the participants of our discussion here on stage. And so now I will announce the participants of the discussion. Ingu Sauliks, State Secretary, then Sarah Shinazi, Head of Minimum Income Policy Team in the European Commission. Mairita Luuse, Riga City Council Member. Chair of Jakava Municipality Council, Victoria Baire. Victoria will be in the center. And Social Security and Health Protection Expert, Latvian Employers Confederation, Pēteris Leiškalns. Well, in such case, we would then simply remove one that is spare. So, first, we're going to have this conversation in several blocks. We're going to have 3 blocks of this conversation. Sarah Skinazi also has simultaneous interpretation device, so you can ask the questions in Latvian too, if you wish. And Sarah, everything is fine if you hear? Yeah? Okay. And the 3 blocks will be divided, and time-wise we probably will finish until 4 o'clock. And that is myths about the recipients of social benefits, then about minimum income impact on reduction of the amount of poor people, on poverty, and now dimensions, and then dimensions and perspective for the future outlook. So this is how we're going to discuss, and if there is something also in the audience, if there are questions in the audience, you may ask in the microphone so that it is first of all translated and also for online audience to hear it. Now, the block about the myths about recipients of social benefits. Also seeing the previous presentation, I thought who would be the first to talk about it, be it the municipality or state or confederation of the employers. Who has something to say? Who would like to open it up? So, if I may, I will just highlight once again what colleague Elena said. This is such a widespread myth that the recipients of guaranteed minimum income, support, or benefit, it's a very deep myth that they characterize them as degraded people, alcoholics, they users of some drugs, but in objective reality it is not true. Yes, we may say that the GMI support recipients, 43% are unemployed. However, they are unemployed due to various reasons, including such that, and we can't deny, there are people who otherwise are in the age of, in the working age, but they have worked, and due to their professions and maybe in constructions or somewhere, they have not obtained a disability, but still they are unable, if I may say so, they are unable to work. And that is why this situation becomes as it is, but once again, we can't say that all the recipients of social benefits or GMI benefits are the same. And 12% of all the GMI recipients are also employed people, and they fall into this category, so to say. Well, you would say, okay, so if a person is employed, probably that is at least minimum wage, maybe at least if they work half of the time, then they would receive half of the minimum wage, and then they wouldn't be under the threshold. But we need to take into consideration that this last network is judged according to the whole household. So it means that there could be pensioners, and also if you count on all their household in general, then they can also become those who would be in the category of those receiving the benefit. So social security policy in the ministry and all the responsible institutions as talk about the GMI recipients and say that these are different people. You can't judge from one group, one part only, about the whole group, and that is also a wish, as if to look broader. We oftentimes have these discussions, and each year also with municipality representatives, and there is a story like that. And from the part of the municipalities, there are certain generations of those seeking the benefits, and empirically that's true, but with GMI it's not the case. So then, begs for some kind of explanation from the municipalities. I think we may start then. Yes, Tjärkävä municipality. I think that our situation is comparatively good if we talk about the category of people that needs help. But it if this myth used to be more widespread, I wouldn't say that it now is so much. So there is maybe not so much bias anymore. However, it is still part of how we communicate and our social service work. Because social service, usually when it is involved, it is like an assistance to understand how we may help. Because help can be different, and when a person asks for help, it's not comfortable for them, and they are in a situation they're not happy to be seeking this assistance. And it is indeed a moment when it even can be very difficult, very hard for the person. We need to be aware of that, and if we do present ourselves that this is a possibility to step out of this situation, then it does not form the bias anymore. There will be categories who will use such benefits for their whole working life, but with the with a chairperson of the social service, we usually discuss this, and these are the people with certain problems with abuse of some substances, and then they can come into these situations, and we also should provide them an opportunity to fight their dependencies. And so once again, the people who receive GMI also change, but there will be certain categories. But as in all areas, all other areas, Riga experience. Yes, if we look about the Riga experience, I think these are households with children. The same as in other municipalities, that could be retired people or people in the employment age, and at first it seems like, okay, those famous, so to say, recipients of benefits. But I would like to look at it somewhat broader, and why it is harmful for us to divide these people into good or bad recipients of benefits, those who deserve it or not. Well, we talk about maybe there are people who are actually not seeking help because they feel that it is something shameful, and they will fall into the category of those who don't deserve it. And if we look at, for example, research and experts in the field say that inequality in general actually make life worse for all, not only those who receive help, but also for all of us as a society. And usually I hear, and I like it, when we talk about that, we are so much closer to the recipient of benefit than to a millionaire, all of us actually, because it could just happen like so that we become those receiving the benefit. And then we look at those who through generations ask for the benefits and receive them. But no, that's actually an individual. It's a structural problem in our society that we have such individuals, that we have not, so to say, caught these people, but they have been children. They have been through the education system in our states, in our countries. From childhood, they have maybe been already under the supervision of social services. It's not true that there had not been somebody in the system who could have pulled them away out of this situation. And so again, is it this bad receiver of help? No, we should shift this to how we can help these people to actually exit this situation. Apparently, they are not capable of doing so on their own. And if I even had to worry about those not deserving the benefit, I mean, I would then just be looking, actually directing my view on maybe some large companies that evade tax paying, but not the people who, I don't know, receive from the guaranteed minimum income support some 100 euros. Well, okay, the philosophy is then about identifying this person. Maybe there are certain doubts, and looking at the materials and the guidelines, it seemed very human that if there is doubt, then maybe we should interpret them for the benefit of that particular person. But what about the Employers' Confederation in their view? Well, somehow I'm a little bit worried now, because I am also an entrepreneur. I heard that these big companies, yes, tax evasion, there are some, those who do not pay taxes. And indeed, I understand that in Latvia sometimes there's bias that it's not good to be entrepreneur in Latvia, by the way. And they do defraud taxes. But I think I have experienced, I don't know, I have the grayest hair, so to say, in this audience. I have survived experienced so many times. I've been through the 90s, and believe me, well, if you compare it to today, today it's children's play. Today we live very well, I would say, really very well. And that is me who says this. I have been through different times, and also in my family we had to fight for obtaining education, all of us, and go through different times, which is a good thing. Of course, business environment, due to inadequate policy with taxes, administrative burden, sometimes there is somehow not enough, and the economy cannot generate everything that we need as a society, and that is how we lag behind. However, we are in a good situation. And if we look at the particular reform, then I must say, as it is, I have been near there when the Ministry of Welfare proposed this even as a term when it all started, and let's say, well, this reform we can say is very positive. The old system, when the income of the society, average income, increases and that minimum income somehow just stays flat, and then maybe only before election it is raised a little bit, it's not correct. So now today's approach is correct. And what I think that from today's perspective, it is important to actually just make it even more quick, because the reference period is rather far away. This data is received about a year before last, so in January or February, and we can't begin with the next year. So we are lagging behind somehow, and it is too slow. I think it is possible for us to shift it a little bit, like 3 months before, like October, when we also calculate the pensions. But nevertheless, I think that the system is very, very good. And on the other hand, is from the point of view of businesses, the big question is about, doesn't it promote unemployment somehow? Because let's say there are benefits, the support systems, so for example tax reliefs, and what generates most that the person is motivated to work? Then there are universal benefits. For example, we pay you this or that because you have, for example, a certain amount of children, or but everything you earn is like extra you earn, or it's added. But here it is you earn and we remove from the benefit because you earn. So I think this is like a moment of imbalance here, but let's say the benefits indeed are not so big for, just to say that this is somehow the reason for too long. And that is why Madame Zelmini said that it is not static. There are some static factors, but there are those people indeed who have entered some situations of trouble in their lives. Then there is a system what can pull them out of it. If there is good social work also present, then there is always hope that they will return to employment market.
The situation in Latvia of employment is higher than average of the European Union, but lower than in Lithuania and in Estonia, which is quite unpleasant. But the situation, the reform was needed, and it has been made, and it is very significant that we support families with children, because children are not responsible for their financial situation. They cannot affect it in any way, and that is the most important thing to remember. And if they come to a bad environment, a bad situation, that can affect their future. Thank you. I saw that Alec was like shaking his head at one moment, so he didn't agree with something. No, we were just talking about whether if it's possible to live comfortably on benefits. I would say no, you cannot really do that in Latvia, even if they are connected to socio-economic indicators, and as the indicators of the general income of people will rise and the benefits will rise. No, they still cannot live comfortably with benefits we have here. We have to take into account that the socially responsible country should take care of the people, but the people also have responsibilities towards the whole society and each other. And it's not that easy to get these benefits. The person needs to get support from the institutions. They have to go through them. If they are an alcoholic or others, they really need to then take care of that. To say that it is easy to get to live with these benefits, no. When they then get a job, they for a short period of time still get the benefits, but so we try to keep that benefit there, so it's not lost after getting a new job. But why I shook my head, I don't want to say that, oh, the Latvian situation can be evaluated by saying, oh, it's easy to live with these benefits. No, it's not easy, but you can live on these benefits. So if somebody can use these benefits with ill intent, should others then suffer from it? We see that in some cases, like about taxes, we see it can happen. Well, I hope it won't happen. I went to Estonia and I talked to a minister about children's welfare and families. And there were a few employees in the ministry in Latvia that said, oh, a lot of children are made for that and that, maybe that benefit or something. And I have a lot of children. And I said, well, how did you get through it then? Because sometimes they say, oh, benefits help us to continue living as we live, and then we shouldn't raise the benefits of large families, and that the coefficient should be lowered. And Estonia, they said, well, we know that 2 or 3% of families have problems, but because of these problems, we cannot really base the whole system on these families. And the same as you said, we cannot get to a point where there are a few cases and we base the whole system on them. And the previous speaker said, well, there have been moments where we haven't done something right, and that's why they need these benefits. So now, Sara Skenazi, you wanted to say something. The head of the Minimum Income Policy Team, European Commission.
I just wanted to say that better like this. I just wanted to say that I fully agree with what the Secretary of State said about living comfortably on minimum income, which is, I don't think, we saw the figures earlier about the amounts. I don't think we can say we're living comfortably on minimum income. At EU level, we have a council recommendation. It's a paper that all the member states agreed in 2023, and it sets a guidance on how minimum income schemes should look at. And I just wanted to mention two things. First is that we don't speak of living comfortably, we speak of human dignity. And it's not just a moral imperative. Human dignity is the first article of the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights. And that article says that it must be protected and it must be respected. So it's also a legal imperative that we're talking about. It's not just something we're doing to be nice. It's something we have to do legally. At the same time, I think what's important to say is maybe there's a misconception about what a minimum income scheme is. A minimum income scheme, at least the way the EU and all the member states have agreed to it, is not about just having people on benefits and leaving them on benefits forever. That's not the idea. The idea is that you have the benefit that ensures human dignity, hopefully, but that is just a springboard for the economic and social integration of the person. So this is why we speak of an active inclusion approach, but the idea is that income support is always to be seen together with first integration in the labor market, and that means training, guidance, and the usual active labor market policies. But that also means financial incentives to work, and I understand we'll get back to that, so I won't go in details, but it means proportionate requirements. It means to do everything you can so that those who can work get back into employment. And then the third strand, so the third pillar of this active inclusion approach, is access to services. Because, of course, the people we're talking about is not the usual unemployed person who's been in a job 6 months ago. The people we're talking about often have been out of the job, out of the labor market for a very long time. And it is true that some have difficult needs to address before they can even start thinking about getting a job. If you don't have a house over your head, if you have mental health issues, if you have caring responsibilities and you don't have anyone to take care of your children or of your elderly parents, you cannot start looking for a job. It's just not possible. So access to services is also very important. So my point was just that I think there was a discussion about these long-term beneficiaries. I think we all agree at EU level, but including Latvia, because everybody agreed to this document, that it's not about parking people on benefits, and that's nobody's intention. But at the same time, we want everybody to be able to live in dignity.
Es gribēju vienkārši arī piekrītot Eiropas komisijai.
Yes, I wanted to also agree with the previous speaker, yes, that all of these thresholds have been evaluated by the Constitutional Court of Latvia, and I wanted to say that at the current level, and talking about human dignity, we have evaluated this benefit in cooperation with the housing benefit and others, ensuring this the dignity of people, and we have also calculated all of these thresholds and increased them based on the median income of the society, and by seeing that nobody has proposed to change this and went to the Constitutional Court, it just shows that we are doing something right, and we are making sure that all of these needs of the person are covered, and there are, of course, other documents where we see these aims and goals of benefits, but I want to agree that, yes, of course, the aim was not to live comfortably, but to, as you say, it is possible to do that, but to maybe more live with dignity, as was said. And the dignity is something that we really need to think about, and the minimal standard is assured, but the comfortable life, as I said, maybe not. So I think it was increased by 10%. So you said 2%, but actually it was increased by 10%. Well, what I wanted to say here is that what really does not allow us to continue this process that well is that the employers have to cover this minimal income level, and it doesn't really show in the law which social groups should have this half a wage, or are there's, if, for example, people with disabilities, second level of disabilities, who have a loss of working capability of 25%, the employer then should offer this employment of not the full amount but half, but the social benefits should be covered for those people with disabilities from the whole minimum income. So that needs to be really taken into account. We really need to evaluate all the barriers to integration.
So regulatory acts also contradict somehow sometimes if it is indeed such an easy thing just to come together and have a look. I would not agree to Mr. Leiškalns completely. There are and there have been discussions about should we do like that or not, and maybe really we have, well, should it be released from the minimum this minimum installments, social insurance payments. So it's not true that we don't know that this problem exists, and that is why there are some regulatory acts. So yes, there are several opinions, that is why, and the truth will be born through discussions. And that is why we're here, exactly. So Marta wanted to say something, yes? Well, talking about the social work, I would like to involve in the situation. I've talked to people with disabilities, and as many organizations there are, as many opinions there are, and also from people with disabilities, we have received opinions that whether they want more interest from employers to accept them or to risk with the minimum social payments. And this is the question we can and need to discuss, but this is difficult. Now, addressing the benefits and the guaranteed minimum income is, and again, the original question was whether there are these bad or good recipients, but I think, once again, there is misunderstanding in the society, not in this audience, but misunderstanding in the society what the departments of welfare and social workers even do. Because what people see is that there are some kind of benefits that are distributed, and that all of a sudden they see or seem, it seems to them, that those are the people who don't deserve them, but they don't see what additionally is being done to pull out the people of this situation. And I think that this is the part of the work which social workers enjoy more than another administrative work, and we do need to explain to the society that we as a municipality have worked to create various measures and activities to help people be pulled out of the situations, be it maybe parents with children with disabilities, and for them to return into the labor market or to better integrate into society or other society groups. And unfortunately, just looking at it strictly politically, it is benefits, increase of the benefits, the numbers is something we understand it better. We don't understand social work, or the society does not. Okay, I would like then to provoke somewhat more. What about the word benefit? Maybe it also is pre-charged emotionally, and has it not become in Latvia maybe as something like, well, they should be shy of receiving? Or there's another layer. The benefit is something the person receives when, and I'm sorry, when they don't deserve it. And we do maintain those who receive the benefits and in an unjustified manner. I think this is a deeper issue. It's like, do you call it like parental leave? Is it a leave, really? And I mean, there are so many benefits and names thereof, and underneath it there is theory of social security and what we understand with those as substitutes of income or social help or these last resort benefits. Well, depends. There are several or many categories. So just saying a benefit solving all the problems by, I don't know, changing its name or somehow there would be one. No, we can have a discussion, and that is why I did mention the example of leave. I mean, but in Latvian it sounds more like vacation. Okay, once again, in Latvia this word is, I'm sorry, but this is vacation. But and if a father stays with a child for 2 days, we understand how difficult that is. Sarah, so maybe you could share your opinion.
Stigma, I wanted to add, and you were saying, should we call it benefit? Huh? I wanted to add that if we look across your member states, but I'm sure in Latvia it's the same, the non-take-up, and you were referring to this earlier, the non-take-up of the benefit, it's between 20 and 50%, according to, it's something that's very difficult to measure because it's difficult to have a precise idea of the eligible population, but the non-take-up is between 20 and 50%. So this means that a lot of people are not asking for their benefits. and for all of the services and help that is related to that. And there are many reasons. Sometimes it's too difficult. There's too many papers. I was last week in Porto at a discussion with people experiencing poverty on the future anti-poverty strategy, and we have regular meetings with them, and they're saying, you as the state know if I've been to prison, my tax returns, you know all these things, but yet every 3 months I have to put all the information in the system again and again. And it means that every 3 months I have to deal with this stigma, because a lot of people don't have the digital skills to do it alone, etc. So my point is that maybe there's an impression that people are benefiting and just are living the good life, but actually when you listen to the people experiencing poverty, the people who are the beneficiaries, what I hear from them is, I was in such a bad mental health state that I couldn't get out of bed. This is why I didn't ask for my benefit. And things like this. So I think it's good to take a bit of distance with this idea that people are there and living their good life on benefits.
So about the benefits, the benefit as such is in no way a factor that stigmatizes by its definition. If we look, for example, some agrarian systems, historically, when we had maybe social help and social insurance, etc., is just, well, one system, but the framework was different. Today we're absolutely in a different system. It is not possible. What we understand is there is insurance benefit that is from the payments that were from the contributions by the person itself. So it is distributed. There's social insurance. All of us, while working, we are contributing, and when there is a moment when we can no longer do so, this is when we receive this accrued money a little bit back. And so that is why the social insurance benefit is basically like insurance payments. That is how we should perceive it, and it's normal. And also what we understand, there's a period in people's life when they obtain education, then they start working and they don't have the dependents, then they start having the dependents maybe, or they have children and family for 18, 24 years. Each children in socially responsible society, any child is a big responsibility, and of course it is exactly the moment when the parents' competitiveness does not increase, but the responsibility does. That is exactly when there should be some support and benefit. Then the children are big, grown-ups, and then they come to my age group, for example, and you can't no longer work. And then again, we turn on the social insurance, which had been accrued by me as a pension capital. If it is not sufficient, then the Ministry of Welfare also adds something from their basic budget for this special budget they distribute for my pension to be at the minimum level of this human dignity, and that is the situation. So the state responsibility is derived from the responsibility to accumulate even these payments. Victoria, I wanted to add that we are talking about the process of dignity. So the benefit should not be comfortable. We help short-term for the person to return to, for example, labor environment. We're not talking about some comfort level or comfort level where the person can survive forever. But the process itself needs to be respectful. So state benefit system is something the person benefits from, but when the person comes to receive it, there is a way how to communicate with the person and supervise. For example, unemployed benefits. Do you remember? Very rarely you had to go to the institution to communicate with it and to receive the unemployed benefit. But now it's more often. And why? Because you are as if searching for it. You also are involved. You are involved in solving the situation. So this is important. Also, when you are maybe using some medication, when you are undergoing the treatment, your participation is very necessary. If the person feels bad, then the social worker needs to meet this person. If there is a service to connect to, for example, families with children, we have rehabilitation plan, 500 euros annually. But to apply, you need to see the family, you need to communicate with that particular family, and this process is not always comfortable. Okay, what about the process? I think the municipalities see it better. How it comes about, is it too bureaucratic, is it too difficult, or is it simple enough? What do your social workers say? And as Sarah Skinazi said, that maybe it has been, or there have been situations that the person it's so difficult for them mentally that they simply, I don't know, can't apply anything or write the papers, or it's not maybe an express problem like that. And even if not, I mean, that's also as a signal that everything is more or less fine. There is room for improvements, and we're talking about fighting the bureaucracy, and within such plans we would of course revise what needs to be done and can be done. But I would like to add that we need to have a look at what kind of benefit that is, what we're talking about. Sometimes there is this participation, which is indeed necessary, and Digisots, I think, system, which we have, where you link together all the informations you can receive about the person. Indeed, just press a button. I'm just simplifying here, but nevertheless, all the information that is available about the household, about the person. Municipalities are working with certain such databases already now. It's not that we just come to see it from somehow kind of thin air, but the moment of participation from the point of view of the person is responsible for their life and their household, there should be. Let me continue that we need to retain the balance. It's not just these people coming over and register somewhere or give the documents. No, it will be also employees of municipalities. They will first look at these documents and they will say, and maybe the recipients would say, okay, really, why do I have to do so? I study social work for so many years already in the university. I'm the one who, or no, meaning from the perspective of the employee, they would say that this is just work they shouldn't do anymore because they have studied so long now just to put papers in different drawers. Like, there are two parts. One say that, no, put something more and extra for us to maybe shift the responsibility to someone else and grow the system. But another thing is that let us agree that we just remove everything. Well, these were just two extremes. What I've heard from social workers is how carefully they need to document everything is what they talk about, because there are so many institutions they need to report to, and in each of those institutions to report to, it is also a different system. And so that is why they spend so much time not by working with their clients, but by reporting in databases, in different papers, in different documents. But then again, there is no area in the world where it wouldn't be true. Well, it's somewhat a schizophrenia then, because on one hand we want to get rid of all the bureaucracy, not all the bureaucracy, but in social area, for example, oh, I mean, I'm sorry to say, but if something really happens, I mean, somebody dies or a mother with a child or somehow, then on the other hand, somebody says, oh, where was the municipality? Where were the services? Where did they look? Why didn't they see that there were some risks? And then that there should be at least minimum reporting, and some kind of competent authority would say, or an official would say that everything was fine, or they had been working with this particular family. Well, it seems very easy to say, no, you can't, we're not talking about everything. There's an interesting nuance. I have observed the mother who maybe had the right to receive 800, 900 euros if she has 2 or 3 children. For her to earn this herself, it means that 20 days a month she needs to attend work, and 8.5 hours she needs to spend working, which means where's the balance here? How difficult it is indeed to go because, once again, let's say the Ministry of Welfare State Secretary indicated very precisely that there's social work and there is the participation. So it can't be so I just go to social service, they did formalize everything electronically, they would say, okay, something is missing, but then they nevertheless registered everything. I see this dignity level for me is being insured. I go watch hockey and live and everything's fine. No, there is, because there are two categories. Once again, social organizer and social worker. Social worker is a serious person who have obtained education working to return the person into labor market. Sarah, did you want to also mention something, or we can move on to the next block?
But maybe on a more positive note, I think, again, now when we're talking about the bureaucracy, we're thinking about the benefit, but actually something that we say in this European framework and guidance on how it should look like is that there should be an individualized approach, which means that within 3 months, there should be a multidimensional needs assessment and an individual action plan per person. And I know that in Latvia there is the system that within 1 month the person, you'll contradict me if I'm wrong, but a priori within 1 month the person has to receive a plan, an action plan related to their needs. And so here I just wanted to show a bit more the positive aspect of the social workers. This is where they're not just the police of checking did that person, what's the income of that person, did they respect all the eligibility criteria. No, I think they have a very strong added value, and to ensure that, as I was saying, okay, you receive the benefit, but you're also doing everything you can in order to prepare for the labor market and in order to make sure that you get all the services that you need. And I think, of course, that the individualized plan is one thing, and it's very important, and I think here Latvia is doing well. What's very important also is that then you can follow with actual provision of services, and that if the plan says, this person clearly has this health issue and that this has to be tackled before you are able to join the labor market, well, this person should have access, and of course that it depends on funding, etc. But I just wanted to give a bit more of a positive note on the role of the social workers.
Es piekrītu, pilnīgi piekrītu, bet jāpiekrīt arī tādai prozai.
Yes, I agree, but we also have to acknowledge that in some municipalities we don't have the capability to cover these costs, and at that point, if a family member needs a long-term care in a care facility, we need support, and maybe in a more distant future we need several million for that. And well, I'm saying this by acknowledging that the household integration in the society needs to be done. I wanted to end this block and remind people who are on Zoom that they can ask questions on Zoom. Then they will get answers and they can participate. Is anyone here in the audience right now who wants to add something or ask something? Hello? So, when talking about the safety net, when evaluating the basic needs of people, do you see that the current safety net can cover the needs at the base minimal level? We in our institution want to more focus on healthcare costs to cover the medication, to ensure good dignity. What do you see in your practice? Do people come to municipality with larger needs that municipalities can cover at a level of dignity? When talking about the Krakow municipality, I can say that it is one of the service that the state cannot cover, and that's why we step in and cover these costs. So we cover the 350 euros for the healthcare, and then 150 euros for dental, and then also additional for covering the costs of glasses. We support seniors, and especially lonely seniors. They cannot really access these services without our help, but the need is much greater that they can get from the state. The state says, well, we offer this minimum, but we see in reality that the people cannot cover their needs with this benefit, and that's why we participate, we step in. At the end of the year, we give an additional support to cover these healthcare needs, and all in all, the situation is not tragic. That is what I want to say. The minimum we can cover together with the state, well, we can definitely see that some municipalities can cover more and some less. Us, the Krakow municipality, we don't have a large number of seniors, but if there would be larger, we would not be able to cover this additional mechanism that we offer. We have quite a lot of working people. We are in a better situation than other municipalities who have the other situation, on the other spectrum, when there are a lot of people who are not working, who are pensioners, and that's why I think it is not fair to put this burden on the municipalities, but we have different financial capacity of each municipality. So to access healthcare through co-payments is a great luxury. Here we're talking about that sometimes people have trouble with the healthcare that is full pay. But we, in this situation of healthcare, we don't look very well compared to other European Union countries. If the welfare situation is not that bad, but the healthcare is quite bad compared to other countries. Yes, I want to say what is the situation in the capital. So, about Riga, when talking about healthcare accessibility, it's not just a problem for people with low income. It's the same in the rest of the country, but the free healthcare for children is just on paper. We hear that in Marup and Krakow it's possible to get a dentist's appointment from state budget, but it's only there. We see that by increasing healthcare funding, it could be done, but it needs to be looked at how we organize it. We cannot just work from the municipality's point of view. We have to strengthen the state funding. Yes, here we really need to take care of people who are children, women, and people with projected disability. Those are the main groups that we should focus on primarily. Yes, Razewska already said that it needs to be done, but she said that healthcare is there and everything is fine. But currently, the Constitutional Court evaluated that persons with low income, this healthcare cover is insured. Well, now how let's talk about how healthcare affects these benefits, and please ask questions. And I know that we have covered a lot of questions, and sometimes we talked about this issue, but just a quick opinion round. By increasing the guaranteed minimum income benefit, will you think that poverty will decrease? Well, you see, what do we look at? Are we talking about absolute, relative poverty? And do we see how poverty is evaluated in Europe? For example, are these people who are underneath the medium income or not? How do we evaluate that? Just by some benefits, so we cannot, not that we cannot decrease poverty in any way, but we cannot decrease it absolutely. But here we have to talk about tax policy. It needs to be more progressive. I don't want to speculate, but when talking about lessening discrimination, this needs to be talked about as well. People with disabilities, people of pensioning age, and the situation in Latvia to those groups are getting better, but we have seen in Latvia that there is this youth cult, and the situation was much worse previously, but still there are problems, and there are people, of course, with disabilities entering the workforce, but still not quick enough, and the last social safety net used as a catch-all for poverty. I don't think if it's possible to do that. So do you want to add something?
I fully agree with what was said. I mean, because the subtext of the question is increasing the benefit level alone enough to reduce poverty? And the answer is no. I won't repeat what I said about labor market integration, access to services. Also, there's a lot of different reforms. I know that there's a very important old age poverty in Latvia, and there are reforms ongoing for the pension system. But I think if we want to really reduce poverty, I mean, at EU level, the President von der Leyen in the State of the Union a few weeks ago says that she wants our upcoming anti-poverty strategy to help eradicate poverty by 2050. So if we want to set really ambitious goals, I think we need to go beyond helping those who are already experiencing poverty and social exclusion and look at preventing poverty, making sure that people don't fall into poverty, in particular in the context of increasing cost of living prices. And this is very broad. It means equal opportunities, education policies. It means making sure that the green and digital transition takes into account the needs of the most vulnerable. And I think it also means making sure that work is a barrier against poverty. I mean, it was briefly mentioned before, but at least in the EU in general, 8% of people who work are poor. So it means that work is not a solution anymore alone to not be in poverty. And so it's very important to make sure that work, if you work enough hours, of course, prevents you from being in poverty. So if the question is, if will benefit alone reduce poverty? No, but of course, increasing the benefit level would help, amongst other things. We saw the figures earlier. I think the way we look at the figures, we see that if you add all the benefits that a minimum income beneficiary recipient receives in Latvia, you arrive at around 35, 37, I think, % of the median income. Whereas we know the poverty line is at 60%. So one can argue there's also in-kind benefits, in-kind services that are provided. But still, if with all that you would arrive at 60% mathematically, you would reduce poverty.
Šis tīkls, tas pēdējais tīkls.
So the last network, it's not really aimed towards lessening poverty, and its function is different. It's about a respectful life, level of life of a person. And as the State Secretary of the Welfare Minister said, we are calculating relative poverty compared to the median of the income of the society. What is the problem in Latvia is that we currently, due to statistics of Eurostat, we use the OECD modified poverty equivalence indicator. And what happens there? The first person in the household is 60%, the second is 30%, and then the child until 14 years of age is only 30% of the 60, so 18%. So 18% of the medium is not the threshold of poverty in society. It is poverty. And as I talked about the minimum income threshold in Latvia, how we calculate the household income, the first person in the household is 40%, and then the next is 70%, which is, I think, 28%, which I'm probably messing up the numbers. But the most important thing is that the child poverty level is incorrectly calculated. It is lower than the food safety level of children. It's just to compare with Eurostat. So I wanted to talk about this when talking about indicators. The indicators are a good thing, but what do they calculate? And at what moment are they becoming the objective? So there is where we see where problem arises. If we see that there are no poverty, then maybe the minimum social benefits, we have to think about what group is there who need these benefits, and we continue to increase these benefits and they continue to live better, but then these people could then go out of these calculations. We really have to. We have added this benefit to the medium of income, and it was a good decision. But we were increasing the benefits of families, of children, and yes, it's all connected to the medium income, and so we don't have to fight every year to increase these benefits. And to continue this story about Riga, I want to, of course, talk about the districts around Riga. We always talk about this, and I know I sound like an old record, but when I was part of the Saima, I continued to go to social institutions outside of Riga that they don't ask some papers. Like in Riga, it's a bit different. Well, it depends on the institution. And then I look at their demographic structure. What is the demographic structure of Riga? We have a lot more pensioners in Riga than in municipalities around Riga. Maybe on paper, Riga looks good. Our poverty level is not as high as maybe in other places, but I will get the same money in Riga, the same benefit in Riga that I will get in other districts, but I will live much better in other municipalities than compared to Riga because the cost of living are higher.
So maybe a question or an issue between the municipalities, the discrepancy between the municipalities, Riga and maybe other municipalities. Maybe there are people in the audience also, they have a structure which is different. Maybe you have some replicas. I can only say that looking at the demographic distribution, we look by financing equalization, funding equalization. And 2 years ago, the Ministry of Finance did create so much better model for equalizing the funding, but it is not being introduced because there are some political questions. It requires more money, that is why. So everything is fine and everybody likes it, but if we're talking about municipalities in the vicinity of Riga, I like it so much, so I will also talk. Tjakov is also one of the municipalities in the vicinity of Riga. But returning to this network, it is such not to fall on the floor, so to say, just basically 5 centimeters above the ground, and it is flexible enough for the safety net to bring the person back. So the safety net is not for lying on the net all the time for the whole life. I think that is what it is, just to be pushed back and to fight the poverty completely. Can we do so? I don't think so. Still, with the best of conditions, the person can choose such life and not do anything. They just need to understand it's not going to be comfortable, but there will always be the people like that. So to fight completely poverty, that is, let us begin with maybe education opportunities. We need people, the children, who would be able to receive equal education always, and they have these opportunities maybe to receive extracurriculum education, maybe going to music schools, or because it also lets them obtain the skills that they may use later. We can always aspire to achieve something more, but this is also the situation described in the Bible. We will live in the paradise only? No. In the Bible too, there's paradise and hell, so heaven and hell, and well, there had been different forecasts indeed where we will live in the future historically. So the reality and situation is different throughout various regions in Latvia. That is why the models should also be different. We should not be envious by looking at another municipality, because every municipality has an objective that they equally try to solve all of these things: social support, education system, and entrepreneurship system. And for a very long time we have lived in a system where entrepreneurship as such does not give back to the municipality the necessary income. We are based on the declared place of residence, registered place of residence of a person, and when you live for a long time like that, actually, that is why regions are not developed. Well, this is actually the question to other panelists. Maybe it's more complicated, you know, people should be registered both where they are registered, so to say, and where they also go to work, and maybe are the contributors to potholes on the streets or where they work. Okay, well, this is not an easy topic, so this is going to be deeper. So where the person goes to receive help. Because I understand, yes, indeed, you work in Riga, and this is the road that you are damaging by being here, and that is no doubt. But which municipality is going to pay for this person's child? For example, kindergarten, will ensure school, and would also have some transactions with other municipalities. Which municipality then is the one to provide the network, and whom am I going to address? Is it the municipality where I work or where I live, actually? Well, there are various models in Europe how to fund this and what is the basis of municipality and what taxes go where. The discussion here is it the egg or the chicken first? And municipalities have different responsibilities. There have been municipalities we have talked about, maybe we have more responsibilities than Estonian municipalities maybe, but they also calculate their taxes differently. So it doesn't make sense to now argue about how to pay and who pays. Well, usually, yes, indeed, before elections, the municipalities are discussing whether it was going to be half to Tjakova and half to Riga, these taxes, but maybe also we could restructure other taxes. Well, all of us together actually pay more to municipalities that are more distant from both of ours. Yes, this is indeed a discussion of what the municipalities should do. In the 1990, with the when the second law on municipalities was adopted is how we distributed the funding, and we searched for the source already starting from there. 80% of the income tax goes to funding, 78 actually goes to funding in the municipality of the registered place of residence. Well, this is not only the discussion at the end of the day of from which drawer we take out, because the wallet is as big as it is, or doesn't become bigger. Well, the question then is that municipality is not interested in creating any environment for business in their territory, and that has been a deteriorating effect for us not to develop certain segments. If the municipality is located close to the economy center Riga in our country, then it's easy to say, you know, our green meadow, our everything is fine. We only care for this infrastructure, and the question is about the balance. And as I said, there is a better funding of municipalities already developed, but we are not implementing it. So probably it's a shift to another block, but does it influence and motivate people to get involved in the labor market and employment, or what do you see from your different perspectives if we talk about the guaranteed minimum income scheme? There are also household benefits, but this very minimum then comparison to the safety net, well, let's say it's not a trampoline or somehow, but it still is resistant enough for the person to jump back to a certain level. What do municipalities see from real life? Maybe let's exclude some extreme examples when social worker already knows for very long years a certain person. But once again, let's see, is it a good proportion for the person not to be comfortable enough in the system, in the safety net, not to be there for too long? It's not good enough if we talk about the opportunities to obtain income through work. So families with children in Riga, they can obtain such income that if only one person works, they can't earn so much. So probably that's a comparison to regions. But I need to agree that this safety net is not comfortable indeed to just lie there and look television all day. If you look at human dignity, then indeed it is important, and the person feels this this dignity himself and feels it if they work. And if we talk about the families, then for families with children, it's very important for at least one parent to go to work and be tired and come back in the evening. We need to look at not only the level of comfort in the safety net, but the level of comfort of these people when they return to employment market. We have to look at maybe low salaries. If you're talking about a person with disability, for example, they say, okay, I will get this one in with benefits, but if I work, I will get, well, this much bigger, which is a little bit bigger, more. So we're not talking about the safety net and benefits being high, but that the income is low, the salary is low, and then there are additional expenses going to work and etc. Maybe there are more health problems if I'm not recovering enough, and the same with children. If there's children, then I need to take care for them. If I'm offered the job at that time when I can't use the kindergarten provided by the municipality, etc. Different reasons. We need to look at the reasons the people are saying. They're saying, I want to return to the labor market, but it doesn't make sense economically. And we're not talking about the, as I said, once again, not that the benefits are high, but the objective challenges, well, the benefit is not enough of returning into the labor market because the salary is too low. Yes, here I can agree, and we have discussed this also previously, that indeed there are generations of people requesting the benefits. They don't get involved into the labor market because their benefits are too high. But in the labor market there are also problems like discrimination, availability of various services, the fact that people, for example, have to relatives they need to take care for in their household. And if they don't receive the service, appropriate service, then it doesn't matter what the benefits are. They would not go back to the labor market because it's so difficult for them. And again, the labor circumstances are such that sometimes they go and just say, okay, I can't. But on the other hand, there are employers who say that we pay 1,000 euros a month, but we can't find anyone. So it's, again, we need to look at where is the truth. Of course, there is shortage of specialists with certain skills. But again, let's see at not just the level of benefits, and indeed it has to be on the level of minimum amount of human dignity, but against that there are also these participation activities and all the things and all the incentives. And here I would need to agree to the representative of the Commission also. By going into the labor market, we need to pay attention about balancing and not losing the balance, and it needs to be found. So maybe this is a message to employers that not always it's the money and something else, but maybe we should look and give the person a flexibility regarding their working hours, or maybe it is more so a market of employees now, maybe adopting timetables for work, when there are buses or when they can commute, when they can take their children to kindergarten. It's not only about the employers here, because this is also about the state policy, municipality policy, what kind of services we ensure to those people, we provide to those people, and how much we understand the reasons why people do not return to the labor market. The same thing, if you do have to take care for the relatives, it is a true situation. It is a true situation and reason why people do not return to labor market. I don't just have some spare money in the drawer to just open, a care facility. But everybody thinks that we do have in the country some kind of a drawer with money. Yes, for example, women at certain age need to take care for their parents. It is they leave labor market when they take care for children, then they return, and then they again go away from the labor market because they care for their parents or husband's parents. And in the future, I think it will be a problem. Currently, new parents, mothers, women who stay in this parental leave, they do register it being on this vacation in Latvian, but once again, this is a linguistic issue that in Latvian it is called like that, but this is leave, and they would formalize it on husband because they have larger salary, and that is how they would receive a larger benefit. I don't blame this family because this is their choice. As at the moment when a child comes into their family and we, the state, say that indeed we want to receive more income, and these people want to receive more income because there is such an opportunity, and then this woman for 1.5 years stays without any social contributions, because all these benefits are received by the husband, and this impacts, I think it's like maybe more than 10 euros impact on the future pension of the woman. So this is the problem. Needs a solution, both short term, how to ensure their social contributions. In short term, it is to allow to divide it. One is to receive different kinds of benefits here, family benefit and children's benefit. So this does, it feels like some kind of a penalty for women. Sometimes they do take care for the family members, elderly, and in the social law we also have that it needs to be funded if it is a relative, it's a close relative, and the municipality pays for it indeed, because there is also such scheme, such support. But if there had been a child who have worked and did contribute to the social budget to ensure also for elderly the pension system, then this person cannot pay for the place in care facility because they don't have enough, big enough salary. So then there's a second choice to register as a person with disability to receive the benefit and stay at home, but that is not a good solution because, as you mentioned, heaven and hell. Yes, that is returning that when, for example, the parent dies, then this woman cannot return into the labor market.
Yes, nobody says that there are no problems. They need to be assessed and evaluated, and we have made research on it, and there are different methods that we have used. Alternative solutions have been made, but all of these need money, and that is the reality, and we really will need to walk in the direction of how to solve them with more money. Sara, do you want to add something?
Well, I mean, I very much agreed with what was just said about services. I understand your point that asking more flexibility from employers can help, but, you know, I have a baby daughter at home. My employer could give me all the flexibility in the world if I didn't have a childcare facility to take and that I can afford to take her. I wouldn't be here today. So you know, I think it's a lot about delivery of services. I hear that, you know, where's the drawer of money, and I think that, you know, when we have a conversation amongst social ministries, we're quite convinced. But what's difficult is then when we go beyond this audience. And I think what we should continuously do is just to remind them that it costs much more money to leave people on the side of the road than to address poverty. I mean, it's obvious, but these people will participate in the labor market, pay taxes. There's OECD did a study, and the cost of child poverty is above 3% of GDP of a given country or of the EU, I don't know, because they consider that this child poverty, the person is not going to participate in the society as they could have, etc. So we're losing a lot of money by not providing these services. And the last point I wanted to make was to come back on the question of financial incentives. So as I said, this is a very important part of what a minimum income scheme should look like. And it's a very difficult one, because on one hand, you want to ensure, as was said, that people have a financial incentive to work, that they will get more money to work. At the same time, you want to ensure that everybody, be it if you work or if you don't work, can live in human dignity. And as you were saying, it's not always the case. And it's sometimes a question of wages, but it's not only a question of wages. And more we see involuntary part-time, involuntary temporary work. So people work just not enough hours, either per week or per year, because they have these seasonal contracts. And so they just don't work enough hours in order to have the income to live in a dignified way. And so this is why it's important, and in the Council recommendation, we speak of gradual tapering of benefits, we speak of income disregards, and I know that in Latvia you have income disregard for 3 months. But just to give an example, in Malta, for instance, they introduced a reform in 2014. And what they do is that when someone who's a minimum income beneficiary takes on employment for 3 years, they receive a share of their benefits. So the first year is 75%, the second year is 55%, and the third year is 35%. And that reduced by 80% the number of people on minimum income. Mm-hmm. So first, the number of people on inward benefit increased, but in the long term, we see a real impact on poverty. So it's about finding a way that I don't think it's such a dichotomy between working and not working, and people who want to stay at home and not work and watch TV all day. I think it's about making sure that people, because as was said, I think people want to work and want to provide for their family. But I think we need to make sure that when people make that choice that they work and provide for their family, they still earn enough money. And so if they know that they're going to earn less, it's not just that they're lazy. It's just that they won't survive if they take the choice to work. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, we can continue with EU perspective. Yeah, maybe you can put your headphones and switch to Latvian again. Es domāju, ka šajā brīdī mēs varam arī
I think now we can start our third part of the discussion. The clock is ticking, and let's talk about the European Union dimension and the future perspective. The question to Sarskanazi: what priorities should be in the European Union anti-poverty strategy? What is your view? What we should take into account?
So I mentioned it earlier. Von der Leyen announced in her political guidelines, which is her work program for these 5 years, that there will be an EU anti-poverty strategy. And it's the first time there will be an EU anti-poverty strategy. There's a lot of member states that have national anti-poverty strategy, but it's the first time there would be one at EU level. And as I mentioned, she even raised the ambition, saying that this should help eradicate poverty by 2050. So we expect to put forward this strategy next year in 2026. And we have an open public consultation, so we're very much into preparatory mode, and I can't say much about what will be in it yet. But what I can say is that we need to step up our efforts. There is a target at EU level on poverty, and there's also one in Latvia, of course. And the target said that between 2019 and 2030, we're supposed to reduce the number of people experiencing poverty or at risk of poverty by 15 million. We are at 2.7, and we're already in 2025. We were also supposed to reduce the number of children experiencing poverty by 5 million. It went up by 0.25. So the status quo won't make it. We need more, and we need to. What we also see is that some groups are more affected by poverty. Obviously, children, inactive, unemployed, and the reason that this is a massive problem beyond the social issues that this creates is the economic problem that I mentioned earlier. Like, this is costing us a lot of money, but also there's a political problem. The more people are in poverty, the more there is distrust against institutions. And so there is kind of an urgency to address this. In terms of what I can say, in our preparatory thoughts, we see as, and the way we look at this strategy, first, we see that it should be centered on the person. It should look at a life cycle approach. We see that, for example, addressing child poverty has impact later on in life. We see that in different age cohorts, people have different situations. So we want to provide measures that will help people who are experiencing poverty, but also the root causes of that led them in this situation. The second point is, as I was saying earlier, we need a systemic approach. We need something that goes beyond helping those that are experiencing poverty right now. Minimum income alone is not going to help eradicate poverty by 2050. So I explained that earlier. I won't go back into it. And then the third point, and it's a very important one, is that at EU level, we can do things. We've been working in the social field. But we have the principle of subsidiarity, and a lot of social policies are implemented at national, but as we saw today, a lot at local level. So we need to reflect in the European Commission on what we can do to support national and local authorities to actually implement the right policies so that we reach our ambitions. But unfortunately, I can't give you a lot of details because we're still preparing, but I encourage everyone to contribute in the public consultation.
Paldies, un par šo pašu tēmu, bet vairāk no
So, about the Latvian perspective now, everyone knows their field the best, but what do you think, what would be the most effective steps to lessen poverty in Latvia? I know that there are a lot of factors, healthcare, education, etc. By this we may open several Pandora boxes, but what would be the best effects? Yes, I agree with Sara from the European Commission that the European strategy should help the member states, because the social policy is not just about just social policy and of each state individually. European Commission can work in cooperation much more, and maybe there are policies that can be made. I don't think that. Well, I think the recommendations can be made, the good practices can be made, and this approach is really good. And the European Commission has instruments that can be used and have been used in the past, European funds to increase social inclusion, to lessen poverty. These aims and objectives need to be set very concretely. We have an aim for the future, and in the European Union, these 15 million that was quoted. But I think we have quantified also the aim to lessen the number of people with financial risk or poverty, and but I think the anti-poverty strategy of Europeans should also work in the direction of those that are needed in Latvia, including, as I said, about lessening discrimination in the workforce and other things as well. But I presume that Latvia, as a member state, will have consultation with the European Commission about this document, about different action plans. And the most important thing is that we don't create a too complicated directive that cannot be enforced. So the wish is to have a clear direction, and including welfare and education, healthcare, etc. It's really difficult to imagine how will we be able to come to a consensus on a European level, because in Latvia we have so many municipalities, and on European level there are so many countries that have been included in different times, and the social support system is money that we are spending. So to be able to have money to spend, we need to create money. So we need jobs and a good employment system. And so there's a system right now where you earn something, then you pay in, and then you take that money to divide among those who need it. But if we don't have economic development, then we won't have the pot to take from to give others. Like, as Leishkan has said, yes, we need to fill up our pockets. Yes, well, the system worked until we started the new system. I think it was 400 euros a few years ago of the minimum level of income, and the society was such, and if right now it would be crazy if we won't be able to cover this minimum income right now of these like 2 or 3% of people. But now we have to talk about the resources, where to take this money from, and it has been talked about, like where to take it from. So I think 39 million is from the state budget and from municipalities, and we are covering that right now. Our GDP is 10 billion less than it should be compared to other neighboring states which are in similar economic development stage. So 10 billion that could be in the budget or dedicated to our citizens. And each year we take 2 billion of debt each year. If we look at the future projections, I think the most important thing is to ensure equal opportunities for children to get as much as they can, to get state-funded or municipality-funded extracurricular activity, so they can develop their skills early. We have relatively low added benefit system, and that is quite stupid. This whole system is quite stupid.
I just wanted to finish this very simple thing. During the last election, we found out about the results several hours later. Then fell the minister and another high-ranking official. The fact that we have 10 billion less in the GDP, nobody's, position falls or head falls, so to say. So, Mr. Leiskans, sorry for this comment. I have a different comment about the education. Raising a child takes very long time until we get to a person who can be involved in the labor market. And we have all been talking about the lifelong education development. And the world is such a changing environment. We can't stay forever in one occupation. We need to be able to adopt and evolve. And people need to be able to even sometimes dramatically shift in what they do. And I think that maybe the future means we will work for a very, very long time. So we maybe if it's a good employment, then we may, and it's fine. Here are two things. We are all aware of the data and research, investment in healthcare and children. It is not expenses. It is investment in the future. It will provide the return also practically when you create the budget in the municipality or state, an annual budget. Then you don't see this investment part. You see the particular funds that you need to channel somewhere. And as much as we are aware of and we can take into consideration that it is indeed an investment, still finding budget for that particular year is very difficult. We need to create empathetic policy based on the data. We need to look at who are the people, who are the big groups under the threshold of poverty, and we need to identify the individual stories. If under the threshold there is parents or maybe some households with many children, they have different reasons why they are even there in the first place, and we need to be working towards that. And the big problem, the major problem, yes, of course, we need to invest in education and entrepreneurship and everything else, and everybody believes that it's all fine, but somehow we need to funnel or divide this problem into some particular cases and human groups and types. So if the car does not work, it is not the axe we take to fix it. Yes, there are particular measures. We can solve something tomorrow already. For example, maybe health issues, especially in workplaces, especially for men. 10 years is the difference of life expectancy between the genders. So men are dying too early, which is the worst situation in Europe. We need to look at this particular situation. Men can't work in construction when they're 50 and older. Then we need to see what's going on there. Where do they fall? Well, if they die, then pension budget at least is saved somewhat. The pension budget has this already planned, the solidarity between the genders. Well, very positive note indeed. That was sarcasm, probably. Yes, and also the years of quality of life. Yeah, that's a bad statistics in Latvia. I think we have indeed discussed so many things, and now, at this moment, Slido, QR code, evaluation of the discussion here today, and people, audience remotely and here too in presence. Maybe very briefly what you heard about today, what was interesting, beneficial, and then we can continue the discussion here also in the coffee break, and there we can open up all the topics that have not been touched upon and discussed. And I have to say, express very much gratitude to all the participants of the discussion today. Marita Luse from Riga City Council, State Secretary of the Ministry of Welfare Ingus Alliks, Takava Municipality Chair of the Council, Victoria Baire, Head of the Minimum Income Policy Team in European Commission, Sara Skinazi, and Social Security and Health Protection Expert on Latvian Employers Confederation, Petris Leiškalns. Thank you to you. Thank you very much for all the participants, and let us applaud.